Hey, welcome to another video. And in today's video, I'm going to talk about integrity. Why is integrity important? And why is it important to talk about integrity? And does integrity have to do anything with relationships or with life itself? And what does integrity have to do with yoga? The word integral means to bring things together. So I'm sure all of you are, and most of you are looking for quick fixes in your life, just like a lot of us. And there are short snippets of many people, who are on social media, and they do these short snippets to kind of with obviously advices on how you get rid of certain problems or issues that you're facing currently in life. Well, these things are very helpful. These things are definitely, you know, uh, trickling down sort of like droplets of wisdom and pearls of wisdom, if you may, that comes into your life at just the right moment. But can you integrate it completely, or have you integrated it completely? And that's what we're going to talk about in this video, about integrating certain things into your life and what does being integrated mean in the first place. So I'm going to give you a short example. Let's start with the relationships, for example. Or okay, let's put relationships aside. So there is this whole thing about society, right? That we're always attracted to, when it's people, good-looking people, when it's objects, good-looking objects. But at the same time, we know deep down inside that there's something very wrong with this equation. That we shouldn't be ignoring the not so good-looking people, the not so good-looking objects. The existence of classism. You know, what's happening over here is a form of disintegration, which means that when I talked about in my previous videos about things coming together and yoga being something that yokes things together, I mean precisely this, that there are things in society that are so disintegrated, that are so disyoked, that's so not in yoga, okay? That's what's causing a lot of the problems that we face in society. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to some extent if a person is you know super wise. If that person, like how you see on social media nowadays, is a very good looking person, and who just, I don't know, poses in a very raunchy way, whether it's a man or a woman, you know or if it's a superstar, people tend to follow these people more. Or if it comes to politicians, there's a certain agenda that certain people want to um, go after, and the person who represents this agenda the best, gains that following. So in the same way, when we're talking about classism and disintegration and about our own personal lives and how disintegrated it is, it's a very complicated subject. So in relationships, for example, it could be friend, son, friend, child, lover, whatever relationship. To be integrated means that when you say something, you are really integrated about it in thought, word, and deed. If you tell someone that I care about you when it comes to matters of friendship, you have to go down that road to show how much you care. You just can't say it and then not do anything about it. That will be a disintegrated approach. It would be quite obvious soon down the line if you were to say that I care about you, but in fact you don't. You don't do things to do that. Similarly, in the case of a parent-child relationship, you can say I love you all I want, but if you don't do something about it, especially when you have the means to do it, that's when there's a disintegration, that's when there's a separation, that's when there's a break between what you're saying, what you're feeling, and in fact what are your true intentions. Okay. And so being integrated is so underrated nowadays, and especially on social media. It's just like the best talkers and the best, the people who can just show it off, they get away with these disintegrated approaches, it's astonishing, you know. And that's where we are as a society. But in our personal relationships as well, we are very disintegrated when it comes to a lover. You know, you say I love you, but then you're interested in someone else. When you say I love you, you don't pay attention to that person. You completely ignore and take that person for granted. There's a disintegration, you know. It's better you don't say I love you. It's better you don't say as a friend I care for you. It's better if you're integrated. It's better that, you know, if you feel that you don't love a person, or you don't want to be a friends with someone, or, you know, if it's a father, mother, child relationship, you know, it's better to have an honest approach. It's better to be integrated about it, you know. Um, the reason why we prefer the disintegrated approach is because somewhere down the line there's a subtle manipulation happening. It's like salesmanship. You know, the salesperson doesn't want to offend you because he wants to tell you what you want to hear. You know, it wants to give you validation always, so that there is a high possibility that you will buy into what the salesperson is saying, or the product that he's trying to sell you. So, do you think the salesperson is going to be completely successful if he or she were to tell you the truth? Like, you know, listen, I think you're making a wrong choice, and, you know, I don't think you have what it takes to buy this product or this and that. I mean, the person is going to be like, oh, okay, that's very honest of you. Goodbye then. You lose your sale for today. So, you know, this is a very big problem. It's a very big social problem. So we can't fix this completely because we're in the thick of it. But what we can do is, in terms of personal relationships, that's where we can bring integration. But we can bring in complete integration not there, not even over there. We can bring in complete integration in our personalities. Forget about personal relations, forget about interpersonal relations, forget about society. You can change yourself, you know. You can integrate yourself, and that's exactly what yoga teaches you, which is to bring the disintegrated parts of your body, mind, your intelligence and emotions into one union, into a complete integration. So, the whole point of integration is to observe. Because if you're not aware of integration, if you're not aware of disintegration, you lack awareness. The fact that you don't perceive either of the two means that you just don't perceive. So the first thing you need to develop is perception or perceptiveness. You need to develop the ability to look into things, to observe. Sorry. Let me give you another example. You know, for example, another example of disintegration is that there are people who, let's say, they complain about people copying their content, but at the same time, if these people copy other people's content, you know, that's a very disintegrated approach. It's very inconsistent. It's very contradictory. So in the same way, when you're practicing an asana, and you're not paying attention to the left side of your body, as is the case of most people who are right-handed, you're being inconsistent. You're not giving complete attention, and you're not developing complete awareness and focus on that area of your body, and you're going to miss out on integration. At a physical level, that part of your body starts to deteriorate and become weaker and weaker, and by the time you're 50 years old, there will be some complications. Mentally, there are more chances of you becoming unstable when a situation becomes too hard to cope with. Intellectually, there's always going to be some kind of bias. Do you see? Everything can begin from the body, from the outermost, and everything can begin from the innermost. The reason why yoga proposes the journey from the outside and to the inside is because naturally, as human beings, and naturally the way the senses have been designed is to always focus outside. The eyes are not turned inward, the ears are not turned inward. That is something that through a yogic process you learn to do, you know, especially when you practice Shanmukhi Mudra. And yogis found out these secrets way back. um, they found a way to go back to the natural source of creation. But if the senses are already oriented outside, and if you're asking these people who have no idea of what the inner world is, if you ask them to start from the inside, you're going to fail. You're going to fail terribly. Maybe you're going to get fame and recognition because what you're talking about sounds so spiritually rad, but practically. So again, as a teacher, you have to be integrated and honest in your approach. Tell people that, listen, it's not going to work out for you in this way. It doesn't matter if you upset them or their expectations. At least you're telling them the truth. You're not sugarcoating things. And that's exactly what people like Swami Vivekananda did. And that's why initially, and even later on in his life, some people just didn't like his approach. He was too fiery. He was too confrontational, controversial, and he had a lot of enemies. Um, Being integrated also means to have your thoughts and feelings in one place, to have no separation. And why is this important? If you're watching someone suffer, and you are taught as a child to have compassion for these people and do something about it, you know and so even if you don't feel for the situation of that person, by habit and through education, you go and you do something charitable. But that's wonderful. That's absolutely perfect. But what happens in the case where monetary benefits or charity is not important when it comes to, let's say you have a partner, let's say you've got parents or friends who don't need money or these sort of things, but they need you to be there to feel for them, to understand the plight of their situation. Or if you're a politician, or if you're a leader, or you're a boss, you're an employee, it could be any role that you're playing, but a situation where you require yourself to empathize. What do you do then? Where you know that money or any material thing is just not going to suffice, it's not going to be enough, where you're going to have to talk to the person, you're going to have to sit down and spend your time and hear that person's problem out. People like this are just going to run away. People like this are going to get annoyed, irritated, and they're going to be like, well, you're a bother, you're an absolute bother. It doesn't matter whether you're my father, mother, son, daughter, lover, friend, you're a bother, you know. So you say that you feel bad for someone, but do you really feel that way, or is it because of societal education that you feel bad, like in a superficial, structured, made up, fabricated kind of a way? It's not a bad thing. It's just that a fact is a fact. There is no real integration between how you think and how you feel. Um, the reason why criminals are the way they are is because they lack integration. Because their their minds are, and I'm talking about criminals. I'm not talking about like hardcore criminals. I'm talking about criminals who manipulate. You know, so these people lack that integration. So what it is that they tell you something, right, and they manipulate you and they fool you. They 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 take away your money. Do all kinds of crimes, your trust, whatever it is, right? And they get away with it. Why? Because they know how to play the game. But a person who is integrated wouldn't even start going down that road, because there is feeling. There is a feeling that I'm doing something wrong. Everything is integrated, but in these kind of criminals, it's not. They know logically that what they're doing is wrong, but over here, the heart chakra, they're like, well, I don't really care. Like in Italian, it's called chi se ne frega. It's like whatever. Who cares? Fa niente. It doesn't matter. So, you know, integration is a very, very important part of society, personal life, and also your own personality. You say you're going to do, I don't know, you want to develop your chest muscles, or you want to develop a certain part of your body when it comes to fitness, because a lot of people are into fitness nowadays. And you have made up your mind, and you're like, okay, I'm going to do 35 push-ups today. And then you're sort of like, yeah, I don't feel like doing it. I'm going to do it tomorrow. So there's no real integration. There's no real truth in there's no connection in terms of how you think and how you feel and eventually what you will do about it. Because emotion is a very powerful energy. Emotion is what motion is to move. Okay, and so emotion is something that it's a driving force. Bruce Lee talked about emotional content, because if you don't have that motivation, there is a difference between motivation and emotion, but they are more or less connected. Integration. So if you don't have this integration, you're going to end up saying that you will do 35 push-ups, but then your body and your mind and emotion is just not up to it. They're like, yeah, but we don't want to do it. Like, we're just not going to do it. And your body, if you allow your body to listen to them, your body will do the same. Your body will, in fact, end up not doing anything about it. It's as simple as that, because a lot of people, talk about manifestation and law of attraction and all of these things, but do you actually know how it works? It's about integration. It's like they talk about resistance. Resistance more properly means disintegration, because you're saying you want $1 million, but does your mind agree to the truth of that possibility? Does your intelligence, which is a logical instrument, actually believe that, that's actually possible? Is there a real integration? Because if your body, mind, and your intelligence believed in this to the core, through absolute integration, it could be possible. According to the law of manifestation and attraction, it could absolutely be possible, because there's absolutely no resistance. Everybody is in one concordance. Everybody concurs and accords, saying, yes, we're going to get $1 million. Body, mind, and spirit, intelligence and emotion, because spirit is something that people sometimes are not convinced about. So body, mind, intelligence and emotion completely believe in this, right? There's a complete integration, and that's how you get that siddhi. Because if you read Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, and you're looking at the third chapter, which is Vibhuti Pad, he talks about a term called sanyam. Sanyam means to bring together. Everything about yoga is to bring together, but sanyam specifically means to bring perception, the object that is seen, the agent of perception, and the perceiver, all brought into one union, integration. So even when you manifest, this power comes through integration, not disintegration. Not that your mind is saying that's not possible, but another part of your logic is saying, but it is possible. Maybe I can jump 6 feet. But the mind is like, well, it's logically possible, but can my body do it? If your intelligence is logically telling you that, yeah, it's possible for me to jump 6 feet, and your mind is like, I agree, I'm going to listen to you. The body's like, well, I'm going to listen to your mind, and you actually go for that attempt. Well, whether you make it or not, you're actually doing it. You're at least taking a first step towards it. And that's how manifestation and attraction works. Motivation is basically what we are talking about. So, you go for that jump, you fail. Let's say you fail, case scenario. Well, you come back. At least your intelligence, your body and your mind are in one union. And so your body and mind is like, oh, well, let's listen to intelligence, and let's see what intelligence has to say about this. And so intelligence is like, it does the calculations, and intelligence is saying that, well, maybe we should have used this technique. Well, mind try to understand how the legs are working, and the legs are like, I need to listen to the mind. So everything is about integration, even at the most physical level. So when you're talking about stuff like, law of manifestation and attraction and personal relationships and all of these things, then it's far more important over there to have this sense of integration. So, you know, uh, when you practice yoga, how it works is that when you do an asana, and when you find that one part of your body is not in alignment to the other part, we call that a state of inequilibrium. We call that a disintegrated state. So we try to bring in equilibrium and we try to bring in integration. And by doing that, we bring in a complete union. When we bring in a complete union, the body, the meridial system, the chakras and everything all falls into one line. And even your mind and your thoughts slowly start to center themselves because your mind tends to follow the body. If body is feeling sick, your mind will soon follow. Your mind will soon start to feel sick. And vice versa. If your mind is feeling sick, your body will follow. So everything has to be integrated. Everything is integrated. It's now how you work on this integration and how you bring this integration towards higher degrees of integration, and make that integration more fortified and powerful. So that's why I keep talking about root chakra, because it's about fortification. It's about bringing things together. Because listen, you can talk all you want about spirituality and manifestation and all of these things, but if your root chakra is weak, and even if you have a very highly activated third eye chakra, throat chakra, heart chakra, navel chakra, whatever, all of them, you believe in God and God has come down to you and given you big visions and you're going to become rich, you're going to become this and that, it's not going to happen. Your root chakra is the thing that will make it happen for you. Your root chakra is very, very important, when it comes to all of these things like attraction and all of these things that people are so desperate for. But then again, there are some people who are just born blessed. Some people don't even have to have a strong root chakra, and because they're blessed, it's just that's just their fortune, and they get the money. But if these people talk to you about law of manifestation and attraction, um, some people have rich wives and husbands. Some people are born into rich families. Some people, I don't know, they win a lottery. Now, if these people talk to you about law of manifestation and attraction, these minority, and they ask you to do it, you need to just kind of like just be a bit wary, you know. So if there is genuinely a story about a person not having had anything and making it big, and then preaching about law of manifestation, and even there you really have to study how that came about, then believe that person for sure, So why am I so interested in debunking law of manifestation and attraction? Well, to me, a lot of spirituality nowadays has become materialism. This is something that I don't particularly like. I feel materialism is very important, but it has its own place. It's got no business with spirituality, in my opinion. Spirituality is the teacher. Spirituality is the regulator. Spirituality is that IRS official who tells you, we need to keep tabs. Materialism is like, well, spirituality, you're a bother because you're putting limits on my ability to just break the law and just keep materializing and just not giving a damn really about spiritual things. So don't tell me what to do or how to do it. In spirituality, if or even in fitness or any other thing that has to do with the material world, anything that calls for your senses to go in and focus on the energies, it's always going to be difficult. But that's why people don't really like the raw spirituality, the truth, because it doesn't satisfy their senses. It makes them feel very uncomfortable. But I'm sorry, but that's how true spirituality is. Uh, don't follow spirituality. If that's the case, if you really want to preach materialism, you preach law of manifestation. Don't even talk about chakras. because you're talking about a very materialistic kind of spirituality, which is about siddhis, you know, chapter 3, Vibhuti Pad, and the other scriptures that are out there. You know, I might sound like a very unpleasant person because I'm not being forthcoming about things like siddhis, or I'm sort of criticizing these things, but that's my integrity. Okay, that's something that I won't, and I will not back off on. If I get to become super rich, I'm not going to attribute it to my spirituality. I may attribute it to uh, something that has to do with my hard work, and indirectly attribute it to a strong and a fortified root chakra. And so I would probably tell people in the future that, well, work on your root chakra. That's a material chakra. How do you do it? Probably there are a few techniques, but I haven't done it, so I don't preach about it. Now, you know, integrity is something that will always help you at the end of the day. Um, because insecure people who, especially in relationships, people who are insecure, people who are not able to let go, you know, um, well, I will mention Aaron Doughty in this video. This is something I agree with on him. The law of manifestation and the other things. I know what he's saying, and I know what he's talking about. I have a few issues over there, but whatever. But when he talks about letting go and leaving attachment and all of these things, he's spot on. I don't know how he found out. Maybe it's a personal experience, but he's that's something that I found very integrated about him in that sense. And he talks about uh, certain techniques and all of these things, and they're all good. They're all very good. There are people who are not like this, who can't let go. There are people who are sort of like, they just can't let go, and they're so insecure. They're always worried about what their partner is up to, whether it's about them, typing something. Maybe it's related to work. Maybe they're not actually chatting with the person, or maybe it has to do with watching someone's stories, or liking someone's pictures. These are some great insecurities. Why? Because there is no detachment, there is no disassociation, and that's where integration is at an opposite pole. That's where you find that there are two different techniques to approaching the subject of integration and detachment. Because when you have to integrate, what you're essentially asking yourself to do is that no matter what this other person does, the person that I love, or who I like, or I'm in a romantic relationship with, I am so integrated and so firm and conjoined in myself, body, mind, and souls, that I can't be shaken no matter what that person does. That's integration. The opposite end of integration is this disassociation, which is detachment, which is about letting go. That's when you detach, you dissociate. No matter what that person does, I am just let go, detach, disassociate. But do you see, both are the same. Both, in a sense, meet at one point. There's a left-hand technique, there's a right-hand technique. They both come together. There are people who, like the Aghoris, they drink alcohol, they smoke, they do all kinds of really, tabooed things. But yet, how is it that they reach the same spiritual goal as people over here on the right hand side of things, who follow the pure path, who don't drink and smoke, who are absolutely sattvic, right? How is it that both of them get together? It depends on mentality, it depends on inclination. These guys can't do what these guys do. They don't have the mental inclination to do that. These guys can't do this. I can't run 100 meters because my body and my mind is just not made for that kind of distance. I can run 200 and 400 meters, but I'm still an athlete. I might be the best 200 and 400 meter runner, but I'm still the best at that sport, at that event. In the same way, when you're in a relationship, it doesn't matter whether through disassociation or integration, whether you're getting to that same goal, but you should get to that same goal. Because if you're saying that I'm secure and all of these things, but in fact you're not, there is no real integration. You're saying something, but you're not feeling it. So That's why being integrated is very important. And this is something that can definitely help every one of us in life, which is to be integrated. So a lot of us face relationship problems, correct? Well, if you tell someone that I love you but you don't feel it, you say you love that person, but why are you saying it? Is there some ulterior motive? Are you really integrated in that approach? Well, do some introspection and see what's really going on. Maybe a lot of people don't want to do this because some truths will come out that they're not ready to face. In the same way, in a relationship, you know it's the right thing to let the person like anybody else, and to just give them that freedom, and to not and to just be completely fortified in yourself and be integrated, but you don't do it. You say something, but you don't feel it. Disintegration. But if you were integrated, you wouldn't have these problems in the first place. The right thing to do is, when you're integrated, you do your thing. You go on your path. You don't care about the other person. And that's the same thing as letting go. And this is always going to help you. Otherwise, it's going to be an emotional hell. It's going to be emotional torment. Especially I feel for people who are in their first relationships. And when this happens, this can be particularly devastating. People who've had more than 20 relationships, or 20 is a huge number, 4 relationships, there's enough of practice. Practice makes perfect. It becomes easier to just move on. Now, integrity is also important in business. What happened between Microsoft Windows and Apple, for example? Both were working together, but Windows knew about the idea and went away with that idea, and Apple was devastated. Steve Jobs was devastated because there was, I'm not sure what I'm not sure about the veracity of the story, but as far as I know, this kind of like bordered on intellectual copyright infringement. I think they had a breakdown in relations after that incident between Steve Jobs and Bill Gates. Now, see, whoever did this, I don't know what's the truth, but there was no integrity. There was no ethical integrity in that sense. I'm sure Windows otherwise, and Bill Gates, they're fantastic people. Otherwise, in business, they are integrated. But I think back then, I think they've changed as people. They've become mature in life, and they've understood certain mistakes. But back then, there was no integrity. So I think Bill Gates would have just walked away with the idea and left Steve Jobs devastated, because Steve Jobs, as far as I know, had gone to the Himalayas in search of Mahesh Yogi, the yogi who taught the Beatles, and came back. Before going, he was bankrupt. The company was just gone. It was over. But he comes back with this renewed sense of vigor. Starts all over again. Pixar right now is I don't know about the Oscars yet, but I think the movie Soul, made by Pixar, which is a movie I absolutely thought that was such an amazing movie, so deep, so profound, but yet so light. Soul, that's the name of the movie. That was a wonderful movie done by Pixar, a subsidiary of Apple. I don't know what are the facts over there, but I think Pixar was once owned by Steve Jobs and Apple. So I'm I'm trying to say that being integral or being integrated will always help you in the long run, no matter how many times you get cheated or copied. You know. So even though it's difficult, the whole point of being integrated will always help you in the end, and this is something you should do if you want to better manage your emotions, if you want to better think better, have better thoughts, or have a better body. Always be integrated. If you're working out and you're doing a certain movement, if your mind is somewhere else and your emotions are somewhere else and you're just doing this, there is no connection to the muscles over here. You can do 100 of those movements, but there truly won't be any effect. Arnold Schwarzenegger tells us this. He tells us the reason why I had an edge is because, and why it took me little time to get those effects, was because I created a mind-muscle connection. The other person who talks about this is Bruce Lee. So, because I know there are a lot of girls out there who are probably watching this video, I'm not sure whether you're into fitness, but I think I can talk about emotions at this point, or about relationships, or about life in general, about social media. You know, if you're integrated in your thoughts, in your speech, and in your actions, eventually you end up becoming a very pleasing personality. You end up garnering or developing a persona that in general is very balanced, in general is very pleasing. Okay, and that's always a good thing to have, and society needs more of this. So I'm going to end this video over here on integration and its importance and what you can do about it, and I'll join you guys in the next video. Well, I wanted to talk about prakriti and purusha, but then I thought that topic is a bit too technical, and I thought just let me just talk about this first. So I'm going to talk about prakriti and purusha in the next video, and thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.